Are you finding it challenging to learn how to use n8n? In this video, you'll learn all the essentials to get rolling. We'll familiarize ourselves with n8n's interface and get our feet wet with learning how to send customized messages to a list of customers. Let's get started. In my last video, we learned 3 ways to self-host n8n, including the highly performant and production-grade Q mode version of n8n, which we installed on a server with a few simple clicks. If you haven't seen that video yet, check it out up here. If you've self-hosted n8n by following the steps in that video, you should see a Setup Owner Account sign-up page. Go ahead and register your admin account there. You can see that they have a bit of a questionnaire for you, and you can fill that out. And once you've done that, this should take you to the main n8n interface. There are a bunch of options on the left sidebar. At the top, we have templates, and we'll get back to these in a minute. There's variables, but this is only available on the enterprise plan as well as cloud-hosted services, so we won't be looking at these. There's all executions, which is a log of your workflows and whether they were successful or not. There's a help section, which includes the n8n documentation as well as a forum. And you may or may not have an update message that indicates whether a new version of n8n is available to you or not. I showed you how to update n8n using 3 different methods, which you can watch here. Now at the bottom, if you click on these 3 dots here, you can access the settings. Most of these settings you can leave as is, and a lot of them only are available on the enterprise plan. But on the personal link here, down at the bottom, you can set light or dark mode on n8n. Now just going back to the main window again, this area will list all the workflows that you've created. You can add a new workflow by clicking this Start from Scratch button, or once you've added a workflow, there will be an orange button here that says Add Workflow. n8n consists of workflows. This is equivalent to Zapier Zaps and Make.com scenarios. In the main window, this is where all your workflows are listed. But in this video, we're going to start by using a template instead. So on the left sidebar, you click on Templates, and that'll take you to a page of pre-built templates provided by n8n and the community. n8n provides template workflows you can use to get up and started quickly, based on what you need. For starters, let's use a quick start template. So if I click in this search box and I just type quick start, there will be one result that says very quick start. And let's click on that. So once it loads, we can click here to explore, and it'll actually show you the different nodes that are in this quick start. Let's click Use Workflow. And there are a few options here that we can choose. The first one is usually the one you want, which is to import the template into your self-hosted instance. But as an alternative, you can copy the template to your clipboard in JSON format, and then paste that into a text file, and save it as a JSON file, and then import it into n8n manually. But I'm going to use import template into my self-hosted instance. And there you go, it's imported. Now workflows generally go from left to right, both in this workflow canvas view, as well as when you double click into each of these nodes and there's a node detail view. There's a few buttons down at the bottom here which allow you to navigate around in this workflow canvas view. This left button zooms to fit everything into your canvas space. This one zooms in, this one zooms out, and this one resets your zoom. You can also click down anywhere on this canvas, and while holding your mouse button down, you can select as many things as you want by dragging a rectangle around it. If you hold the spacebar down, you can see that your pointer turns into a hand, and then while holding the spacebar down, you can actually drag around your canvas and move it around this way. If I double click on this first node here, from left to right, it shows the inputs that will come into this node on the left here. Then in the middle, it shows the details of this particular node. And then on the right-hand side, it will show the outputs that come out of this node once it's processed. This is a common pattern that will repeat for every single node that you encounter. This particular node doesn't have a lot of options to it. There's just get one person or get all people. This is simply a demo node created by n8n, so we don't really need to worry about where it's getting the data from. All we need to know is that it's getting a list of customer data. So if I click the Test Step button, it will run this node, and on the right side we can see its output, which is it's grabbed 5 records of customer data here. At the top, we can see the different views to display this data. By default, it displays this in a table format, but we can also see it in JSON format as well as the schema. Now, although it's in different formats, the data remains the same. There is this pin button at the top right, which is really helpful when you want the data to remain static, so it doesn't continually query this every single time you run a test. I can click this on for now and it says this data is pinned. Now, if I close this node and I go back to the canvas, if I look at this second node, it says here extract data and prepare it for use in the next node. Now, if I double click on this node, we can see the input that's coming into this node, which is the customer data from the previous node. If you recall, the output from the last node contained the data of 5 customers. And even though this input is only showing the first customer's data, we can see that it says 5 items in the input. So what this node is doing is that even though in the previous node it grabbed a whole bunch of data with a whole bunch of information, we want to extract the 3 things that we're really interested in, which is the customer ID, the customer name, and the customer description. So just to show you how this was created, I can delete these 3 fields here, and I can add the new ones. So the first one I would call customer ID, leave it as a string, and I can drag this ID that's provided in the data from the previous node and drag it into that field there. Same with customer name, and I'll drag the customer's name over here. And you can see that it gives me an example of what would show up here. And in this case, it's J Gatsby, which is the name that it pulled from the previous node. And then lastly, I will create one more, and this will be customer description. And I'll drag in the notes into this field here. And this is how we extract data in n8n to a particular number of fields that we're interested in. If we click test step in this node, you can see that it iterated 5 times through the data that was available. And it extracted the 3 fields that we were interested in, which is the customer ID, customer name, and the customer description. And then created a new list of data based on what we had described in this node here. So one key concept I want to emphasize with n8n is that it'll automatically loop through or iterate through the data that's available when it's stored as a list or an array. We don't have to manually create a loop or some iteration flow in our workflows in order for it to go through all the items. It automatically does that for us. Now, I just wanted to quickly pause to ask if you could help me out and hit the like button for this video. A simple gesture like that would go a long way, and I would really appreciate it. Go ahead and hit that like button now. So going back to the workflow canvas, we can add a new node by clicking on this plus button. We can go through this list and see what nodes are available to us. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to search for customer messenger. Let's add this as a new node to our workflow. This simple node provided for n8n training allows us to simulate a personalized or customized message that we can send to all our customers in our list. So in this new node, we can see the input, which is the output that's from the previous node. And again, there's 5 items, and it's the 3 things that we had specified. We can also access the data from previous nodes down below here. So you can see here, this was the data that we had retrieved from the data store from the first node. But I'm going to use the data from the most recent node that we created. So I'm going to grab the customer ID from the input here and drag it to the customer ID field here. And you can see that it creates these curly braces and the text JSON customer ID. And down below it shows a sample result, which in this case is this 234-23532, which is the ID of the first record in the previous data. Another important thing to note is that there's 2 options up here. One is fixed and the other is expression. Expression means that it's going to be interpreting anything in double curly braces as a variable, and it's going to plug in something into those double curly braces. The fixed option literally means it's going to be outputting the double curly braces with JSON customer ID, which is not what we want here. So anytime we're trying to insert a variable from the input data, we want to make sure that it's always set to expression. And that'll be confirmed by showing you a sample result. Another dead giveaway is that it shows up in green. So in the message, let's type out hi, and then we can drag in customer name. And again, it shows that example, and it shows that it's an expression, and it shows as green. So that's a confirmation there. So I'm just going to get rid of that space. So hi, customer name. And then we can say your description is, and then we can drag the customer description in, and it'll show this example. So, hi, Jay Gatsby, your description is, keeps asking about a green light, question mark. So that's exactly what we want there, and I'll put a period at the end. Now you may have noticed that when I was dragging the input fields into the node, n8n made some suggestions, many of which appear to be JavaScript functions. This is because everything contained in the double curly braces is in fact a JavaScript expression. There are two things to note here. One, evidently, n8n stores and passes data between nodes as standard JSON objects, which are accessed using JSON dot notation. And two, since it's using JavaScript within the double curly braces, you can use other JavaScript expressions as well, such as inserting dates and times, transforming data, validating data, among other things. Throughout this series, we'll go over accessing JSON objects and other n8n JavaScript expressions in more detail. But for now, just know that having JavaScript baked into all nodes opens up a world of powerful capabilities. I should mention that only JavaScript can go into the double curly braces, and unfortunately, Python cannot be used. So again, note that n8n is showing there are 5 items in this list or array, even though it's only showing one result, the first result, from that list of items. Let's click the test step button, and you can see here, it says sent message to customer, and then that's the customer ID, and then there's the message. Hi Jay Gatsby, your description is, keeps asking about a green light. So again, it iterated through all 5 items and it created the custom message for each one. So, this one is your description is lots of people named him, very confusing, and so on and so forth. Now, just a couple of other things I wanted to mention. If we go back to the workflow canvas here, make sure to save your work by clicking on this button at the top right. Otherwise, you could lose all the work that you've done. And the other thing is you can rename your workflow to whatever you want. You simply double click this and you can say this is my first workflow. And the other thing you can do is you can add tags. It can be helpful to tag your workflows because at least at the time of this recording, n8n does not have the capability to group workflows into folders or directories. So you can only filter things using tags. So I might want to tag this with like tutorial, for example. And so that adds that as a tag. And now when I go back to the main homepage, which lists out all my workflows, right now I only have one, but if I do list out all my workflows, I can then select filters here, and it'll say filter by tags, and I can actually choose the tutorial tag. And that would just list out all the workflows that have been tagged with tutorial. Now, the other thing I can do is I can just search by keyword. So if I wanted to search for like, first workflow, it'll actually pull up anything with that keyword in it. Now we could continue building out this workflow by sending these messages out to each customer via something like SMS or WhatsApp, but that's outside of what I wanted to show you in this brief introduction to n8n. So we learned how the n8n interface works. We learned that workflows generally get processed from left to right. The nodes interface also runs from left to right, taking some input, processing it, and producing an output. We learned that a node will automatically loop or iterate through any list or array of items, and the results will be seen in the output. Lastly, the data passed between nodes are JSON objects, and anything contained in double curly braces is a JavaScript expression. I hope this helped to give you a solid introduction to how n8n works and gets you well on your way to using n8n to make some crazy cool automations. Please remember to like this video, and check out my next one in this tutorial series to learn more intermediate concepts of n8n, including how to use webhooks, querying a live API, and adding custom Python or JavaScript code. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.